All right, so back to this. It's been a hot minute, like quite a while since I've done one of these. I'm actually kind of genuinely curious when I last made one of these videos, particularly for this series, right? It was probably around summer time frame last year, so it's been at least 6 months, probably close to like 7 or 8. But the big thing there, and I guess what that comes down to, right, is obviously, as you can tell by this video, they've released or started releasing the second season's worth of episodes. And funny enough, I kind of knew about it, but originally didn't plan to gain it until I kept seeing them pop up on my YouTube feed. And it's like, all right, if I'm going to be exposed to them, I might as well just continue watching. So there's that, right? That's kind of the context behind me making, I guess, this video, right? And then what's going to be probably a video per episode. I mean, I feel like that just makes sense since they just release weekly. So it's like, funny enough, the third one is tomorrow as of the time I'm recording this. So it's like, should be anything too crazy. But it is something to where, again, we'll just watch the first two. I also watched the bonus episode for season one, but that was just kind of like, all right, I mean, it was just these little like incident, like just events, right? So nothing too crazy. But again, we saw the first two episodes for season two, and they were pretty like, I'd say like they were pretty big and impactful. The first one, again, right, kind of really hammered home. I guess it honestly, I'm gonna be honest, I completely forgot what happened and how Ichikawa got injured. I completely fucking forgot. Um, but again, we saw how bad Yamada felt for that, right? Again, right, as well as her kind of losing the dog, right, for as mundane as it is, kind of really caused her to start like tweaking out, right? She and we, again, we really saw just truly how much she actually like cares for him there. Like again, like I'm not gonna lie, like this show is still pure fan service, right? I mean, that's just the nature of these types of shows, right? I talk about all the time on videos, but you do really get the feel that she actually like really just genuinely cares for him there, based on like, again, especially after losing because again, it was a combination of the two things. One, her feeling bad because again, what was it, she saw like the picture, well, first he like refused to accept help from her, which she already kind of felt partially responsible for, and then again he eventually did, and she kind of did everything for him. But then again, it went to the whole picture thing, and she realized that, like, kind of inadvertently made her realize that it was her, or that she was like primary reason, right? But then, again, I'm not even gonna lie, what was hilarious was them saying like, oh, something's like wrong with her, and she only had like one french fry, but then they're referring to orders and not individual ones. I'm not gonna lie, that was hilarious. But then it went to again, the whole losing the dog thing, and the orange hair girl kind of saying them up, but really, like him finding it for her, right? Showing that obviously her came back, but also the fact that he again shows that he cares for her too, right? And again, that's pretty much the first. Again, the second episode, that one, like, dare I say, this is probably the most important episode in the whole series. I mean, or at least so far. I will say, I know that obviously it's based off a manga that's past like a certain point, but I don't read the manga. The only manga I read was the Komi one, right? And that's because, yeah, the anime just fucking died. But you know, again, the second one we see, obviously he gets into her. I swore I thought he had went to her like place before, but I guess he got into her house. I was so confused because he was like taking a bath and doing all this stuff, and I'm like, did she not remember? He had he had a broken ass hand doing all that. So again, yeah, but just really more so along the fact that she was inviting him in her house, and then taking care of him, right? As kind of like repayment for that. But also just because of how close they are, right? You know, really at a point beyond friends, I think is obvious. But again, all that, and then obviously that gets into the situation, because she washed and dries clothes, right? Gave him her gym clothes, right? Like stinky ass fucking gym clothes. And then that led to the whole situation with the dog. That would have been a crazy fucking situation, I ain't gonna lie. But again, the freaking dog. To be fair, like, I don't think, and this is like, obviously it's just a completely like fictional like anime based scenario, right? Where it's just like, oh, it's one of those things that just happen in these shows. But like, I don't think you realize, because like I've never broken a bone. I've had like injuries, but like I've never broken a bone. Nothing like super serious. But it's something to where it's like, when, let's put it this way, probably there was one time to where I fucked up my like thumb. It was for wrestling practice, and I like fucked up my thumb. Like I pretty much fucked it up. Um, Thankfully it was my left thumb, right? But basically, I lost grip strength in that hand because like most of that comes from your thumb. Like I lost that for a bit, and that was like it was something that was weird. And then also I will say I tore my I don't think I was torn. Maybe I just what's the term? I sprained my like IT band, and like how that affected just walking around. Like I don't think people realize, kind of how like how capable the human body is, I guess, while you have it, right? So like breaking an arm and all of a sudden you only have one arm to work with, especially if it's not your dominant one, is like that's pretty rough. Because I mean, even just think about it, using a computer is two, right? But again, getting off topic. But then again, that leads to, and what I think is really interesting is this is the first time we've kind of gotten backstory out of Yamada, right? I don't think we've really gotten. I mean, we kind of know because Ichikawa's whole stick is that he's like a sociopath, or at least thought he was, right? That was kind of, but we never really got anything out of Yamada, right? But instead, we're seeing with her that, again, kind of even though she's this kind of stereotypical, I guess, like successful, popular student, right? It's something that's rooted in insecurity, because throughout the past, right, kind of everything she's tried, she hasn't really succeeded at. And even though she's kind of at the top of her class, right, at least on the social hierarchy in terms of like people actually doing stuff and getting ahead in life, she views as though those around her are, kind of eclipsing her in that regard. And we can really kind of see how like that impacts her, and probably and again, what we saw her worry was ultimately, people like, just like, I guess, I don't want to say leaving her, but kind of her being as more of a burden than, someone that can actually help out, right? And again, the big thing there and with that is just, yeah, again, kind of the crazy part is, again, because we see, again, and obviously Ichikawa comforts her, and then we kind of see, but again, her parents, right, and kind of the backstory, even though ultimately, they're gone a lot of the time, as we kind of saw, she eats dinner alone a lot, they're still pretty supportive of her endeavors, right? Even Ichikawa says, hey, they probably took it, like they wanted to see you keep trying new things, right? Not just give up, which is good for her. And I will say for me, I guess the most applicable aspect, because I will say when I was younger, I did try out a lot of things. For athletics, I tried basketball, didn't make the cut. Volleyball didn't make the cut. Again, and I ended up sticking with, that's how I did running, wrestling, and track in high school, right? It was because those were the ones I didn't get cut from in middle school. I did other stuff. I played drums. I did drawing and like art for a bit. Like, I did a lot of like, surprisingly, a lot of I did like badminton, fencing. Like I did a lot of like recreational activities, like just that kind of my parents ended up making me do. Really, I'd say my only interest was funny enough in running. Even wrestling, I kind of did just because I didn't do basketball. I stuck with it through high school, but and part of that was I just think our high school had a really good wrestling program. But for me, I'd say my real passion was definitely running. But like all the art stuff, like I kind of did because like my parents made me. But like it wasn't. It was something to where, because I was in a. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say like I'm literally Yamada, but it was something to where I even did ballet that was when I was really young, it was weird because I was a guy, but they still like, I still ended up doing it. I have like very vague like recollections of stuff for that, but again, right? And then obviously all kind of like the special ed stuff in grade school, but the thing there is I did a lot of things and didn't really stick with that many of them. obviously I stuck with kind of sports as my primary like outside of academic endeavor in high school, but even then I was a three sport athlete. I didn't stick with just running, and then obviously I didn't do any in college, and now I'm just doing shit for my job, right? But I will say academics, I was okay. Not that's a complete lie. I was horrible at academics in middle school, but I also was like, I don't want to say a delinquent, but I was someone who got in trouble in middle school. High school, I cleaned that up, right? Improved that, and then in college, obviously fine, but it was something to where really, I'd say definitely up until high school, like mid to late high school, I could say I felt like I was in a similar situation, or that I could kind of relate to that, to where it's like, you know, you don't really find what you're good at, and then again, you worry that you're not gonna have something like that, right? But again, it's and then obviously, Ichikawa comforts her. It's the first time we see him hug her, right? Because again, she's the big one who's kind of like, she's like, all like, what would you call it? She's very, what's the term? She's very I don't want to say touchy. That sounds absolutely crazy, but she's very, well, Jesus Christ, what's the term? Intimate is a good way to put it. Um, but yeah, obviously that was the first time we saw him, so it was pretty significant. She was able to, like cry and let out tears, while he was there to comfort her. And then obviously her parents came, dude. Obviously and I don't remember if we saw her parents before. Definitely not her dad, but her mom, we saw obviously how caring she was. The fact that they were able to pull off the whole bed thing is crazy. But again, and then obviously he sees her dad outside, right? And he saw that he had her sweater, which I'm not even gonna lie. That's really incriminating. That is actually kind of crazy, but we'll see what comes of it. But I think the most interesting thing is the fact that we saw at the end. He had again, what we he had a little sore throat, right? And his arm was out of the cast, but his left arm was bigger, right? And I did notice he was a bit taller. So all these things combined, right, I think is evident of one thing, that obviously all guys and girls go through, right? He's going through puberty, right? He's gonna grow up. Again, I will say there was a joke to be made about the whole left arm thing, but that like again they didn't make that. But again, he's going through it, right? I mean, obviously, and I mean, he made the whole comment about her, right? But I mean, again, the whole thing is what girls go through it like earlier, right? And obviously affects them in different ways. I will say, all right, well, for me, it wasn't because I guess here's my thing, right? So for me, I don't want to say I didn't really notice or it wasn't a very volatile period. Like for me, honestly, it didn't. I don't want to say it didn't have that much of impact because obviously it did. That's literally me growing. But it didn't really feel like it had that. Like I will say, I don't know if it's like only me, but like it really didn't feel like it had that much of an impact. At least on just my life. Like I like when I was younger, in like grade school, right? I still did athletics. I just still did or sports. I still did sports and athletics in middle school, right? I will say the only thing was that, and then like I had other stuff unrelated, like I had glasses or like what would you call it, like optometry work. I had dental work, like orthodontist work, right? So like stuff like that, but that was just kind of simultaneous. And I always kind of had the same style, of like, I guess hair, how I had my hair, I don't want to say how I dress, but I just kind of wear whatever clothes, honestly. I'm not a big style guy, but what I will say is there was a period of time to where I was dealing with acne, but I'm going to be 100% honest. That was just cuz I I learned my lesson with wrestling because that was like freshman year wrestling. Because obviously you'd shower after practice, but that was mostly just to get fresh and clean. So I'd shower after practice, not shower at home, and that's what led to like me breaking out. So I started showering at home, and it was fine. But that was like the one thing I can remember. But honestly, other than that, it really. And I mean, obviously, the whole joke is, or I guess where the funny thing is going to is the whole like, oh, how does this affect his hormones? Yeah, right. Um, I I don't want to say I was really it just doesn't feel like I was that affected by it. This is about to be a crazy statement. I started, what was it? Because it raises the question, right? I started. Should I just say? All right, yeah, sure. I'll say I started masturbating in like middle school, from what I can remember. Like nothing too crazy. Like I wasn't like one of those people who was destroyed by like unrestricted internet access, but that and yeah, I mean I've just been doing it since. I feel like that's just an obvious factor. Um, but yeah, I guess there's the obvious. I mean the whole thing, like him not having his underwear, right? Which isn't a bad thing. Like I mean like okay, I will say with sweatpants on though, it's pretty crazy. Like okay, like sweatpants are like like if you wear like a jogger, a tracksuit, or like jeans without underwear, that's pretty fucking crazy. But if you're wearing like I guess I'm wearing right now like cotton sweatpants, like honestly, it's not too bad. I will say the big thing though is I am wearing underwear and shorts, but even like I mostly just wear underwear. I was just had shorts on before I put these on, but again, but there's the whole, and then obviously the whole, oh, he got a freaking, because she was like, shit, that would have been a crazy scenario, but obviously he got a face full of her chest, when she was trying to keep up his pants, right? And then at the end, right, where it's like, oh, she's bigger too, right? But it's again, it's just so that there's the whole joke to be made about the hormones and like hormonal aspect of it, but it's just whatever. I will say, because and that kind of gets in the like I talked about and did the black screen video on how my main issue with this show is that it completely drops the whole plot of like Ichikawa being a killer. Like that was seemingly like the whole thing, and it just like disappeared, and it like turned into just your normal slice of life. It's like, well, all right, I mean I'm not opposed to watching it, but it's like the one thing that kind of made it interesting is now just no longer a part of it. I will say I like both of their characters, but it's also just like pure fan service. I mean, that was the whole reason they dropped the plot, right? It's just so that they could focus more on them, like, having their fan service moments. But it is what it is. I'm still going to watch it. I'm still going to make black screens after each part. It's probably going to be like more 5 to 10 minutes, though. But I guess we'll see there. We'll see. But with that, I don't really have anything else to say. So, yep, that's it for this one. See you in the next one.